Hello, first grade. We're going to begin our study of Australia. We're going to be using this book to learn a little bit more about the country and the place Australia. So on the cover, I want you to put your name, first and last. First and last name. And then I want you to take a peek at these pictures on the side. These are going to be kind of the different things we'll be learning in this book. The first thing we're going to learn is where in the world is Australia? Where is it located? Then we're going to learn a little bit more about the land of Australia. And then we'll move into the history of Australia and its flag. And then we'll move into the history of Australia and its people, its Aboriginal people, the native people of Australia. And then, of course, we'll learn about the wonderful sea creatures that are found near and around Australia. And then we'll be studying the animals, the land animals of Australia. So this is page 1. Once you've put your first and last name, I'd like you to color these pictures in your most beautiful coloring skills. Let's move to page 2. Page 2 is an introduction, Australia introduction. An introduction is when you learn something new or meet someone new. Australia is a country, an island, and a continent. It is the world's smallest continent and the 6th largest country. It is located in the southern hemisphere between the Indian Ocean and the southern Pacific Ocean. Australia has an area of 2,966,400 square miles, or 7,686,850 square kilometers. Australia has a population of about 20 million people. Most of Australia's population lives on the fertile plains of the eastern and southeastern coasts. The interior of Australia, called the Outback, is dry with many deserts. The Commonwealth of Australia is a democracy. Leaders are elected by the adult population, but it recognizes the monarch of Great Britain as sovereign. The Queen of England has the title Chief of State and performs ceremonial duties. English is the major language. Australia has a strong modern economy. Its monetary unit is the Australian dollar. So let's go back up here and see, here is Australia. We said it's located in the southern hemisphere. So if this is our world, there's this line that we draw across the middle. It's not real, it's imaginary. But anything that is below that line is called the southern hemisphere because it's south of this line, which is called the equator. Anything that's above it is called the northern hemisphere. So here we are. We live way up here. There's Seattle. Hi, Seattle. And we are up in the northern hemisphere. That's why we're in North America. And Australia is down here in the southern hemisphere. The whole continent is here. And here's the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. Now, if you follow the world all the way over here, because this connects to this, right? It wraps around. This is the Pacific Ocean, which hits along our shores and all the way down here. Now, they were talking about where most of the people in Australia live. Most of the people live in the eastern and southeastern coast. So most of the people live over here. Okay? And then the interior or the middle part of Australia, which they call the Outback, is in the inside, and that's mostly deserts. That's where a lot of the kangaroos live. So we're going to go down to the questions. It says, what is the interior or the inside part of Australia called? Do you remember? That's right, the Outback. The Outback. And then it says, what is the monetary unit of Australia? Monetary unit means, that's a fancy word for money. What kind of money do they use? They don't use American dollars. They use the Australian dollar. So that's what goes here. That's page number 2. Don't forget to go back and color it in. Make sure your water is all blue. We're going to go to page number 3. Australia map. This is a map a little bit up closer so we can find out a little bit more about how Australia is set up. Australia is divided into 6 states: New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia, Tasmania, Victoria, Western Australia, and 2 territories: Australian Capital Territory and Northern Territory. Australia's capital city is Canberra. Its most populous city is Sydney. Now, what that means, most populous, means that's where the most people live. The tallest point in Australia is Mount Kosciuszko, which is 7,310 feet or 2,228 meters tall, which is near Canberra. Uluru, formerly called Ayers Rock, is a huge sandstone rock located in Central Australia. So this rock, and I have a picture of it over here, this is called Uluru. That is one big rock. It's called a monolith. That means it's one big rock. Can you imagine a rock that big? Now, it used to be called Ayers Rock, but now they go back and they refer to it as Uluru, which is what it's always been known to the native people. The native people of Australia have always called it this. And it's now we recognize that that's good. We should call it what the native people call it, because to them it's a very, very sacred place. So that's Uluru. So let's go to our questions. What is the capital of Australia? Do you remember the capital? We heard about 2 cities. If you go to a map, if you notice, most maps mark capitals with stars. Do you see the star? You follow that line over. Do you remember? Right, Canberra. So that's what's going on this line. What is the name of the large island state off the southeastern coast? So what is the island over here? Do you remember it? That's right, Tasmania. Tasmania. That's where those Tasmanian devils come from, Tasmania. And the last one says, what is the name of the monolith, which means one big rock, in Central Australia, which means it's located in the middle of Australia. It's right here. Do you remember? Uluru. That's what goes here. Uluru. Here's how you spell it. Uluru. All right, we're going to move on to page number 4. This is going to be all about the Australian flag. The Australian flag has quite a history. The Australian flag is a blue banner with a Union Jack in the canton position. Canton position means up in this corner. The upper left quarter. 4 white stars picturing the Southern Cross, constellation, that's an order of stars, and a larger 7-pointed star that represents the original states of Australia. The Union Jack, that's this thing up here, is Great Britain's flag. It's like a miniature version of the flag of Great Britain. Having it on the Australian flag reflects Australia's strong ties to Great Britain, because Great Britain sent people over to colonize Australia. It's kind of like what they did when they sent people to America. Remember how we talked about that in the fall? They did it in Australia as well. Australia's flag is also called the Commonwealth Blue Ensign. The design was chosen in a public contest and was officially adopted as the flag of Australia in 1953. So let's see if we can answer some of these questions. What constellation is featured in the Australia's flag? The constellation, that's like a grouping of stars. Do you remember this? These are stars. This constellation you can see from Australia. It's called the Southern Cross constellation. That goes here, Southern Cross constellation. The flag of what country is in the upper left corner of the Australian flag? Do you remember whose flag that is? That's right, it's Great Britain. So let's see if I can find that word. Oh, Great Britain. You leave off the apostrophe S. Great Britain. We're going to tune in next time for pages 5 through 8.